Hi there, I'm Stan Baker, one of the hosts of Circle Forum, along with Shelley Steele and Steve Young. In this episode, we're talking about a question that comes up out of our work with the school, namely this: how much can intentional connections to SK to grade 2 parents actually impact student attendance? Be sure to listen in as we discuss how we're working with primary teachers and ECEs using proactive strategies to intentionally foster those connections with parents of students who are at risk of chronic absenteeism, SK to grade 2. I think learning and understanding more about intentionally engaging parents early on in a child's education is important because it lays a foundation for a student's academic journey. It ensures better attendance and a positive approach to learning. So if you're currently navigating the complexities of engaging primary student parents in their child's schooling, and I think there's more than one of you, then this episode is for you because it can help you strategize ways to build those essential connections. Be sure to visit our website, www.restorative.ca, for more restorative resources. Some of the topics we discuss: the importance of early parental involvement, the shifting mindsets of parents and teachers to the importance of early year attendance, and building intentional, trusting relationships for long-term engagement. The conversation's already started, so let's join in with Shelley, Steve, and me, Stan. Let's talk about some research that we're working on now with another school board, where we are intentionally directing teachers to build connections with parents, specifically parents of students who are at risk of chronic absenteeism.
One of the things we've really started to focus on or help others to take note of is that the patterns are set very early in a student's life about attendance. And so it's lent us to be zoning more in on parents of K to grade 2 students.
We had talked earlier in a previous podcast about some of the early years programs in Great Britain, and a lot of parents had stopped sending their children to school early on because figuring they don't need it that early on. I'll keep them home every day, every second day, and they're effectively using kindergarten grade 1 almost as a daycare. When I have things to do, I'll send them to school, but otherwise I'll keep my kids at home because they're really not learning that much. And that mindset came a little bit out of COVID because kids were only getting 100 minutes a day of work anyway, so I might as well keep them at home. The mindset has changed about the importance of school early on for kids. It would be school boards, school boards and teachers to make those connections with parents to say, but as Shelley said, you're forming patterns. If you're telling your 5 and 6 and 7-year-old that school isn't that important, you're showing them, you may not say it in words, but you're showing them 2 days a week, 3 days a week is fine. That's what they're going to learn. They've already got this mindset. Well, school's not that important. It was never that important early on. It's not that important now.
The delivery of that message is really key, right? Parents don't need to feel that they're being blamed. There's enough pressure on parents already from many other sources to say you're not doing the best job. Delivering that information and how you deliver it is key so that everybody's getting that information. Here's a fact. Did you know? And it's all in its way the information is delivered rather than if you do this, then this may happen.
The way and also who delivers the message. If it's the attendance counselor banging on the door saying, hey, by the way, that's going to have a different reception than if it's a parent information night, or if the parents have come in to have a conference or a discussion. And as you say, here's some information just for your dive into yourself, figure out what you want to do. Because parents ultimately, it's like a lot of things, if they choose to believe that message, then they're going to make changes in how they parent their kids. They're told they have to make the changes, they're going to resist. So I almost want them to almost discover this information for themselves, but you got to make it available for them to discover.
Exactly. And, like we did for literacy and math and stuff. Yeah.
And what's been interesting is that we've actually directed the teachers not to talk about attendance first. To take a truly restorative relational approach is to build a connection first. And then when a difficult topic or a difficult conversation comes up, you've already got a relationship. And so what we're finding already is that these are easy things to do, just like using the 2x10, but directing it to the parents. It doesn't have to be exactly 2 minutes times 10 days, but the idea is that you have frequent interactions and that you're intentional about that. And so the how-to ends up being a non-blaming, restorative way of connecting with parents, because they are the key to student attendance K-3. Actually, this research is really saying, what kind of difference could this make?
We always talk about developing a trusting relationship. And if all of a sudden, as you say, Stan, you've got to present them with some hard facts and some hard data, they're more likely to believe that data and act and make some actions on that data if they trust you. You've already developed that trusting relationship. Hey, this teacher is great. She always tells us exactly how things are going. We believe this stuff. We believe her, so we're gonna maybe look into this. Build the relationships and do the easy work up front, so that when the tough times come, you can better manage it.
And I think teacher training has been focused on program delivery. And what we're saying and what we're seeing is that there's more to this than simply learning how to teach math. You really need to be intentional about your connections with parents, because whether you like it or not, the school has become and is the center of the community, where other agencies and other organizations may not have been. But the school is now there, and you're a teacher. And so part of what really can make a difference for your students is to be intentional about connecting with those parents.
Really have to think about how we're going to have those parents feel they're part of the team or part of the community. When we're talking K-3, there's a lot of years that parents are going to be still involved with the education system. So it really is the beginning of how can I be involved in a way that's meaningful in my kids' education. No, I'm not teaching them every day. There's professionals that are doing that formal education, but what role can I have to play here? Parents can feel many different things depending on where they've come from. Are they comfortable in the school system? Did they like school? Do I feel like this classroom's open for me to have a role in? So we won't know the reasons or where parents are coming from, but the key really is that we have to give them the opportunity to feel part of the team. And that would be a discussion within the primary team to say, how can parents become more involved? And it could be everything from having a voice in something to actually physically being in the building. So there's a wide range, but those parents have to feel that they're connected to the school, not just a building they send their kids to every day.
We haven't done a great job of that as a group in the last 10 to 15 years of welcoming parents into the building. There are still a lot of teachers out there who say, I don't want the parents in my classroom all day long. I'll teach, kids can go home, and I'll call the parents when I need to, but I don't need them. I don't want them. There's a lot of work to be done there.
One thought that did come to my mind was, I got a call from my daughter recently. My granddaughter is in grade 1, and they went to a parent-teacher conference. And what she told me was the teacher mentioned that there was a concern. And then what I loved was she said, and how do you deal with this at home? So she was very invitational. And that invitational approach allowed my daughter to say, I don't have any answers. So she called me, and I said, restorative practices is the answer naturally. But actually what I ended up giving her was one of our think sheets, where you actually, what happened, who was impacted, what was said or done, and what needs to be said or done to fix it. And the teacher took that. This is what I loved. The teacher took it, modified it, simplified it, just made it all visual. And that's what she's using, not only for my granddaughter, but for other kids in the class. And so it speaks to being able to ask questions that aren't blaming, and to be open to inviting parents into the conversation about what's going on.
That's a shift in thinking that a lot of teachers have to make. That there was this belief, and it's not going back that far, where teachers say, I've got a degree in teaching. I'm the expert here. I know what I'm doing. I'll tell the parents what they need to do. And parents weren't having that message. And I think a lot of parents come in with a lot of abilities. And there's always that quote, you are your child's first and best teacher. And they are. You know the kids, you know what sets them off or what calms them down and all those things. Why aren't we asking parents?
It's very restorative to believe you don't have all the answers, or to know that you don't have all the answers, and that somebody else might have something to contribute to the conversation is very restorative.
You know, we're really excited about being part of a project that focuses on building intentional connections and communication with parents in SK to grade 2. And you know what? We don't actually start those parental conversations with topics like attendance. We actually recommend intentional relationship building using some restorative practices skills that don't blame and shame. Start with the connecting, and only after that, when there's a relationship built, can you set the stage for more difficult conversations about things like attendance. Make sure to visit our website, www.restorative.ca, where you can explore free restorative resources tailored to enhancing parental engagement and education. Email me, stan@restorative.ca, for further discussion, questions, and even share your own strategies for fostering those strong school-parent partnerships. So let's join in creating a ripple effect of positive change in educational practices by building those intentional connections with parents of primary students, especially those at risk of chronic absenteeism.